Good luck with that. Let me know how that goes for you. Investigate both sides of the argument, come up with your own conclusions.
Oh yeah, yeah, oh yeah, yeah, oh yeah, yeah, flame.
In Arizona, like most of the American West, water is running out. But even as water supplies are dwindling, some people have more access than others.
The amount of water that they're using is just unreal.
It's corrupt. It's just corrupt and another tactic of war.
I don't know how they have the heart to do it.
For a long time, Pierce was a quiet town of family farms and people looking to retire surrounded by mountains. But 10 years ago, that started to change.
You know, when a parasite or a virus looks for a healthy host, that's what's going on here.
They just kind of took off and got bigger and bigger.
The company is called Riverview, and since 2014, they've spent more than $160 million buying up land around Pierce. Riverview now owns 55,000 acres of land. They use it to grow alfalfa, enough to feed 150,000 cattle. And that requires a lot of water. Before Riverview came to town, the dairy farm here used about 61 million gallons of water per year. But by 2022, Riverview's massive operation was using more than 14 times that, roughly 900 million gallons. Vance Williams had hoped to live in Pierce, Arizona for the rest of his life. But in 2020, his well ran dry, leaving him without running water in his house for 6 months.
This is the water tank I had to buy. Once I realized how big the problem was, we were living on 5-gallon jugs of water before that.
How much does something like this cost?
That was, I believe, right around $3,000. Took every penny I had extra and some that I didn't. Some of it went on the credit cards.
When it comes to water laws, Arizona is still pretty much the Wild West. The state started monitoring water levels in 1980, after a landmark law created new conservation rules, like limiting the amount of water farms could use.
You don't want to buy a home in an area that doesn't have the water to sustain you or your kids or your grandkids.
But here's the catch. The 1980 law left out roughly 80% of the state. It basically just covered major cities and excluded rural areas. That's how Riverview is allowed to pump as much water as they want.
The advantage lies with the people who have the deep enough pockets to drill deep wells. As long as you own the land and you submit the paperwork, you can drill a well as big or as deep as you'd like.
And this is happening across the state, from a dairy farm owned by a Saudi prince, to a New York-based investment firm, to a billion-dollar insurance company. Arizona's extremely lax regulatory environment has made it an ideal home for corporations looking to pump unlimited water. In Arizona, like most of the American West, water is running out. But even as water supplies are dwindling, some people have more access than others.
You know, what this really makes me think about is how we should just change the way we're doing things. Like, you know, the argument isn't framed properly in this segment because any one of those individuals in Arizona that wanted to dig a deeper well could and had the ability to do it would take as much water of as they could for their own needs. So these corporations are basically doing the same thing, you know, but the problem really is related to how we do things, like the monoculture, the monocrops, like the way we plant them, again, it's a global market, like I was saying earlier, and that's what drives this type of thing, because when you have this many acres of growing one particular crop, like where the hell are you going to sell that? Like your market has to be the world, you know what I mean? So, but this is the problem. Everything should get more local, and everything should be more like diversified, and you plant plants that, like one plant takes this certain nutrient from the earth and then you plant another plant that replenishes that particular nutrient into the soil, you know, and you plant them next to each other. Like, so when the Europeans came over here to the States and they saw the Aboriginal Americans, they couldn't even recognize, you know, their farms, because it didn't make sense to them, because they had plants with other plants with trees and with all of these different stuff. So it just looked like a mess. It didn't look like a farm to them, but they understood how different plants can work together, you know, to maintain a balance, you know, and to not take too many nutrients out, and, you know, conserve water, and to maximize the amount of sunlight and all of this different stuff. Because like some plants want a lot of sunlight and other ones don't, you know. So you get the ones they're planted underneath the other ones, they grow taller and they grow faster. Anyways, if you know farming, you understand what I'm talking about. But what I mean is, the way we do things is the problem. Okay, that's what leads to these people taking countless gallons of water from the water table, and who knows what the long-term effects of this will have in these areas. I guess they don't really care, right? They have so much money that if they tapped out the water in that area, they just move the farm to somewhere else, because they have the ability, they have the amount of money to start completely over in another location that has what they need, you know. So that attitude, that perspective, that way of doing things is the problem. Okay, you know. And locally based, what I mean is, it's healthier for you anyways to consume fruits and vegetables that are locally grown, for more reasons than just the amount of time that it takes to get from the other place, or the preservatives that they have to use, or these damn GMO seeds that they use. Beyond all of that, it's just that your body is attuned to your local environment, and the nutrients that you get from local plants, fruits, and vegetables, your body is going to consume those nutrients in a more efficient way. You're going to get more nutrients from the local stuff, basically, is what I'm trying to say. You know, so it's better if you have local markets for your products. So, but for that to work, then you can't be using 150 acres or 3,000 acres or whatever to plant one thing, because you won't have the local market for that. Does that make sense? What I'm trying to say is, it's the way that we do things is the problem. And we need to frame these conversations in this way, besides the conversation of, oh, this guy is taking more of the water than us, and it's not fair. So, but if you had the capabilities to take more of the water, you would do the same thing. So you're just mad that that other person has more capabilities. It's not right. Don't get me wrong. It's not right. It's effed up. But the perspective of the person saying, you know, that other person is doing what I would do if I had the money to do it, but I don't, so it's not fair. You know what I mean? Like, that rings hollow. Okay. Changing the system is what needs to be the focus. How we farm, you know, how many different plants and animals that we farm, what kinds of plants and animals, vegetables that we farm, where they are, which markets are they for, stuff like that. You know, we can create systems where everything is kind of feeding each other, and, you know, depending on each other, and working in balance with the local environment, with the local economies, with the local peoples. Call me crazy. Let me read this. More Perfect Union put this. It says, corporations are taking advantage of lax regulations in Arizona to buy up water rights. One industrial farm in Pierce, Arizona, pumps nearly 900 million gallons of water each year. Meanwhile, neighboring residents' wells are running dry. Last month, the Arizona Department of Water Resources implemented new regulations in this part of the state to ban the irrigation of new land, preventing corporations from buying up more property solely for the purpose of extracting water. The new regulations also require individuals and corporations to measure and report all groundwater withdrawals to the state. Still, the vastly majority of Arizona remains unregulated and vulnerable to abuse by corporations looking to capitalize on cheap water at any cost. You know, and maybe there shouldn't be farms out there in the middle of the desert. You know? Again, kind of like the houses in certain parts of Los Angeles. You know? Just because we can do something doesn't mean that we should. And whatever the consequences are going to be to those actions, though that's what it's going to be. We don't have control over everything. Like, and we also don't know what the cost of what we're doing is going to be in the long term. Comments, it says, how is this even happening? How can it even be allowed at the expense of residents who need the water? Another comment, why are letting people own water? Another one, do Americans hold anyone accountable for anything? Another one, it would be a shame if their farming equipment got damaged, don't you think? Another one, it says, follow the money. The alfalfa grown is not for Americans. U.S. sold its soul, and many foreign companies own American land and products. So even if the farm was owned by another country, somebody in another country, it wouldn't matter if the products of that farm is for another country anyways. You know, it's still not benefiting people in the States. But then again, how can the people of the America benefit from 1,000 acres of alfalfa? Is there a market here for that? Another comment says, you should look to the politicians that gave people like Resnick's control of water. It's not just the rich, it's the people that back for office. They back for office. Yeah, but I mean, you're meddling with the margins, you know? It's not going to change. They'll just get some other person in there that's going to do something that's similar. The motivations of them, you know, are their personal benefits. So if they're getting lobbied, you know, or if someone is paying donations for them to get into office, it's just a revolving door. It's not going to change. The system has to be what you focus on. And these are the conversations that people don't want to have, you know? It's too big. It's too complex. They want to simplify it and be like, oh, it's because you have a bad senator. Okay. So we get a good senator in there, and then what's this kind of situation is going to be? Another comment, it says, Bill Gates has purchased thousands of acres of farmland all across the U.S. that are all located above natural water wells. Think about this for a moment. Yeah, I think that, you know, it's already an atrocity that someone can have like $1 trillion. Like, that's too much power. No man should have so much power. Comment says, just stopped eating meat manufactured by foreign corporations. There are plenty of local ranchers raising beef. You know, that is a strategy right there. But that takes endless diligence. And when your budget is tight and you can't do that, which is going to be the case for a lot of people. And maybe that's the reason why they keep things the way that they keep things. Because like McDonald's can, you know, they're not going anywhere no time soon, like ever. You can say you're boycotting them or whatever, but it's not going to make any difference whatsoever to McDonald's, because the people that go to McDonald's go there because they only have like $2 and they want to get something to eat that's fast. Like, there's no competition for McDonald's. Okay. So as far as getting a cheap something to eat for like $2, that's fast. You don't have to prepare for yourself, you know? So as long as the system keeps on having this downward pressure on wages or whatever, and as long as there's plenty of people who are struggling, who don't have time to go find their local ranch to buy their beef from, you know, who don't have deep freezers to buy their beef in bulk that'll be, you know, at a price point that would work for them, that, you know, then the local grocery stores are going to win, and they're going to continue to win. As long as you have people who are living check to check, week to week, just making ends meet, then, you know, if you're wealthy enough and comfortable enough to go ahead and be diligent enough to check the labels and everything, and be able to go to your local farmers markets or whatever, more power to you. But that's not going to have impact overall, because people are not gonna be in the position to be able to do that. Comment, it says, the thing is, they may want to pump unlimited water all they want, but it's a finite resource. Sooner or later, these corporations have to realize they only hurt themselves by hurting the environment. Of course, by the time they realize it will be too late, and they would have hurt everyone and everything in their way. I mean, like I said earlier, they don't care. They can just move to another location. Yes, it's a finite resource in this location. You know, we live on a water planet. We're never going to run out of water. Like, it's just going to be water wars because of certain locations that have water issues. We live on a water world, bro. We got basically unlimited water. Now, you can make the argument about fresh water, but the water system constantly is refreshing the water. You know, they have this, the scientists think that there's a huge amount of water that's like under the ground, like, you know, you got the Earth's crust, and then you got like the mantle, and they think it's a whole bunch of water like below the Earth's crust too. And it would make sense, because we have these big, huge oceans. So you know that water seeps down. God knows how much water is on this planet. Fresh water. Another comment says, you know, when a parasite looks for a healthy host, that's what's going on here. Another comment, Saudi Arabia is the foreign interest growing alfalfa agreed to by Republicans. Another comment, it says, Saudi Arabia owns the company and ships the alfalfa back to their country. It's illegal to grow alfalfa in Saudi Arabia because it consumes too much water to grow. So in their country, they're like, y'all can't grow this, man. It takes too much damn water, bro. So the corporation's like, well, you just go to America, man. I'll lobby the politicians enough, they'll let me do it. So we'll just go over there and do it. Screw their water. That's funny. You know, it's always it's a reversal, like I say, and with the BRICS and with the West and the East, you know, the global South, the global North, like those lines are blurred now, right? Who is the global North? Who is the global South? You know, where is the West? Where does the West end? You know, where and the East begin? You know, it's complicated, right? When you really think about it. And then it's like, so historically, you know, these quote unquote Western countries are the ones that tend to exploit other countries for their resources. So wow, how have the tables have turned?